pushing the limit. I'm pushing the limit. I'll take it as far as I...
Welcome to another episode of the Tommy Denos podcast. If you're thinking about a career in sports, specifically as a strength and conditioning coach for an elite baseball program or as a baseball player, you have come to the right place today, because in this episode, we're going to focus on the mindset needed to achieve both. Luckily for you, we have the perfect guest to show you how. He is the head strength and conditioning coach for the reigning, defending, undisputed national champion LSU Tigers baseball team. He is Chris Martin, and he joins us today on the Tommy Denos podcast. So I am with head strength and conditioning coach of the LSU national champion LSU baseball team, Chris Martin. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today. I know you got a busy kind of last minute schedule today. First of all, congratulations on the incredible run you guys had this year. Nick Saban, I want to talk about Nick Saban for 1 second. He's famous for prepping for the next season the day after the current season finishes, and even the day after championship. So how much did you guys get to enjoy the championship as soon as y'all clinched it? Was there any, hey, this is just what we do, or did y'all really get to spend some time enjoying the championship?
We enjoyed it that night, and then we were back in Baton Rouge and had stuff going on within a day or two. We had a little championship celebration here at the stadium with the crowd, and that was awesome. But then the coaches were right back to the recruiting trail. Heck, they were even recruiting during rain delays in Omaha. They were on the phone with transfer portal guys because we weren't able to be at home recruiting or holding any visits or anything like that. Yeah. On the strength and conditioning side, I didn't have anything pressing right away, but we started July 7th with our incoming freshman group with some of their summer workouts and summer training. So it was about a week and a half turnaround, or 2 weeks maybe, and then right back to it. But yeah, the attention very quickly turns to the 26th season.
So just kind of walk us through, what your feelings and emotions are, the morning after, because I know this is a whole culmination, season-long journey. So kind of reflecting back on your own preparation, how you helped the team, what are your thoughts the next day? Are you just kind of thinking, wow, I'm a huge part of this, I did this, and what kind of walk us through your mindset, kind of the morning after y'all win on your own journey?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get super emotionally reflective about it in any sense. This is almost, if you ever heard the Scotty Scheffler interview that he had before maybe the U.S. Open or one of the majors this year, or maybe it was the British Open, kind of resonated with me. And he basically said, while I love competing, I love playing golf, I love the process, it doesn't fill the darkest or the deepest parts of my soul. And that kind of resonated with me. Like I love the process of putting in the work over time. I almost think I hate losing more than I like winning.
Yeah,
honestly.
I think most successful coaches do. Yeah.
Right. And if it's not like that, it gets tough to maintain or handle success, because you're in it for the end result, which again, we're not, it's not lost on us that we did something extremely special. But again, it's just kind of business-like, almost like we were very proud of what we did, but it's time to go do it again. And the page flips really quickly.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's the expectation here. We don't take that for granted or take it lightly and we very much enjoyed it that night. Flip the page and it's okay, what's next? And what we're on to the next thing to do.
So you mentioned recruiting. So as a strength and conditioning coach, how involved are you in the recruiting process?
A little bit. So when we have guys come, we'll typically have them come on official visits in the fall on football weekends. So we make a full weekend out of it. They'll arrive Thursday night and leave Sunday with the football game on Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening. But they'll come in. I'll have a presentation that I do either in small groups, so 1, 2, maybe 3 of them at a time with their families. And it's very tailored to the individuals that we're sitting down with at any one moment in time. I'll be at the lunches that they go to. We have a nice dinner here at the stadium with them on Friday night. And then we have a little recruiting tailgate on Saturday before the game. So I'm there, and that's more of kind of the informal side of things where any questions that maybe came up after that presentation can be asked, or it's just more get to know you, kind of get to know everybody as people versus that formal setting where it's, hey, this is kind of a broad outline of what we do as a program here for X player. This is where we kind of see your development going, and that's all tied into what the coaches are presenting with them on the skill side of things too. So I'm definitely involved in recruiting. I'm not out there evaluating talent or doing anything like that, but once we have guys on campus, I'm definitely part of that process.
So what I want to do, I'm going to kind of jump way ahead because we're talking about recruiting, and I was going to save this for way later, but since we're already talking about it, when you're recruiting a potential LSU baseball player, what can you tell us? What's the sales pitch? Because you would think that you could just show them a picture of the Intimidator, right? And that would be enough. Those who know what the Intimidator is, it's a big billboard out in right field at Alex Box Stadium that has all the LSU championship years, all 7, now to be 8, right? And it has Mike the Tiger on it. So is there a particular sales pitch that you guys give to potential recruits?
It depends on the guys, and the coaching staff they're forming those relationships long before I get involved into the process. But it's largely, what can we do for you as an individual here at LSU? Why is LSU the best place on the planet to play college baseball? Well, we're going to develop you. If you come here, stay the course, stick with the program, there's a very high likelihood you're going to end up at the professional level, but not just at the professional level, but having success there. And so that resonates with some guys. There's other factors nowadays in college sports that come into play. But on my end, it's, hey, I coached at the professional level for a while. I've coached everywhere from the lowest levels in the Dominican to guys in the big leagues to World Series MVPs. I know very well what professional organizations are looking for physically in a player, and here's the roadmap of how we get you there. That's very simply kind of the message.
So let's go ahead and get into, so I know you were with the Astros, my hometown team, the minor leagues in Dominican Republic Academy. Let's back up a little bit. So you grew up in Mason, Ohio, and you attended Kent State. So talk about your time at Kent State and your decision to get into strength and conditioning.
Yeah, so I was a pitcher at Kent State for 5 years, had a knee injury actually, my junior year that kept me for a 5th. I was okay sometimes, but it largely never was going to seriously play professional baseball. And I went in as an exercise physiology major, didn't really know where I wanted to go with that. I liked anatomy in high school, and I liked science and things like that. And obviously, as an athlete, the training side was something that I was familiar with, just having gone through it as an athlete myself. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I was interested in the field or the topic or the major, and decided I'll figure this out as I go. And like a lot of college students do, probably switched my thought process on future career several times, whether it's go the sports med route, go the PT route, the PA route. At one point I was like, maybe I'll go get my MBA and stick in the front office. I wanted to be involved in sports. I identified that early. And then really, so I went through a knee injury, tore my ACL in high school, did the opposite one in college as a junior. And I never loved the rehab setting a ton. I wanted to be on the more the performance focused side of the training spectrum, you could say, which is funny because then I ended up as a rehab strength coach for 2.5 years, and we can get into that. But I just fell in love with the training, and like your body is something that physically you have 100% control over. You have 100% control over, the work that you do, what goes into it, how you treat it. And that really excited me. And then I eventually took an internship between my 4th and 5th years at Cressy Sports Performance up in Massachusetts. Very well known in the baseball community, and worked there as an intern coaching. That was my first real coaching experience. that summer, it was great too, because I was in a place where I could train and get prepped for my 5th year without having to go off to summer ball. But that one, at that time at Cressy, really solidified it for me. Like, this was awesome. I really enjoyed coaching. This is how I want to stick around in the world of baseball.
So talk about, going back to, you mentioned the word process earlier when we started, and that's really kind of what I want to talk about in this episode is, anybody who wants to get into strength and conditioning, play baseball for an elite program, the mindset and the process that it takes. So let's back up to college. Kind of give us kind of, an example of the process of, education to get into strength and conditioning. What's as far as your major, what's the education journey that people need to understand?
So I think being in that exercise science related field, a related field of some sort, kinesiology, obviously lays a pretty good educational foundation for what you want to get into. Is it 100% necessary? No. There are people who are strength and conditioning coaches who got a business degree and at some point in their life became more interested in the training side and went and got that, became a coach. But that one of those related fields is a good place to start, because you're going to lay the groundwork for your education. And then experience is so important. And early on, just getting a wide variety of experience is hugely important, whether that's personal training at a local gym, whether that's doing something at the rec center on campus as a college student. Maybe you're leading exercise classes, like group sessions, or you're doing something there. They're always looking for help, whether it's interning at a small private facility near your school or near your home, trying to get in front of as many different people as possible. So athletes, different ages of athletes, different sports, general population, weekend warriors. So all trying to get as many coaching reps, or at least seeing as many coaching reps, because sometimes those early internship positions are not glamorous. They might be, right. Hey, you're going to help us set up and tear down, and you might clean the gym and things like that, but you at least get to start to see what different environments look like. And so that's hugely important, one, for identifying where you want your career to go, but two, hopefully you're in a spot where you can start to learn some things and actually see them in action, because there's one thing about to go gain the textbook knowledge. It's another thing to be able to apply it with real human beings and get real results. And so that experience is hugely valuable. And I'll finish this one up, but yeah. The strength and conditioning field right now is very saturated. There are a lot of people looking for, quite honestly, not enough jobs, or not a lot of jobs. And it's a very attractive field to a lot of young people, and that's great. Because of that, there's a lot of competition. So you have to be prepared to possibly take an unpaid internship, or 2 or 3, or a GA position. It's all about getting your feet into the door, creating relationships, providing value to whatever organization you're currently at, and working in from there. And so you got to be able to practice some patience along the way.
So you talk about the attraction that people have to this job. So that makes me kind of think about what's the biggest misconception that people might have of this job? Because obviously it's not a 9 to 5, obviously. So what's kind of the biggest conception that people have, when working for a team or anything like that, but it's probably not as glamorous as it sounds.
No, there are glamorous parts to it, but the hours are long. You can expect to work 60, 70, 80-hour weeks regularly for a long period of time. So that's one of the pieces that sometimes gets missed. You're going to work weekends. You're going to work holidays. You're going to miss events in your life. If you're in a team setting, like LSU, where it's at the elite level in the collegiate. And so again, that's why I talked about the experiences, because if those are things that are more important to you, or are huge values in your life, and you want to be close to family, or you want to be able to attend things, then the private sector is a much better place, because it's going to be more stable. It's going to be more predictable. And so these are all things that you get to weigh through that experience and start to understand. Another misconception, I think, is with strength and conditioning coaches is that we're just kind of the weights guys. I think the performance field at large has really started to kind of break down silos between the skill coaches, the sport coaches, the medical staffs, the strength and conditioning staffs. Now there's nutrition departments all over, sports science departments. And so strength and conditioning staffs have to be responsible for understanding what's going on in every single one of those domains. And you don't have to be the world's most expert person in them, but you have to have a good understanding of what's going on with your team or teams or people. And so it's not just, hey, come down and see me and we're going to lift some weights. It's, I need to understand what your goals are as a player, what things you're working on with the coaches, what bumps, bruises, injuries you may be dealing with, what your nutrition plan looks like, and what are our goals for you from a body weight or body composition standpoint. So many things that are going into the decisions and just the job on a day-to-day basis.
So when you first came on, how did you connect with the returning players? As the new strength and conditioning coach, was that an easy process? Was it an easy connection, or did you have to kind of earn their trust coming in fresh?
I think they gave me a pretty good amount of trust right off the bat. I was actually the fourth strength coach in 4 years here at our program when I arrived, and it's coming out of professional baseball. So I had that fallback a little bit of, hey guys, like, I'm a baseball guy. I've only coached really baseball in terms of my actual jobs coming up since I left college. I'm a baseball guy. This is what I know. This is what I love. I've been at the level that you're trying to get to. I can help you get there. And I think that carried some weight. But I try to get to know them as athletes, as people off the field, and try to form real, authentic relationships. So when I got here, it was 2 weeks before the school year started, maybe. And there was a good handful of guys already on campus, and they were finishing up some of the summer training programs that they were doing. And I didn't come in before school started and say, hey, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, or you should be doing this instead of that. It was, hey, I'm just going to step back and observe, and you guys come in, finish up the programs you're on. I'm just going to kind of watch you train, facilitate. If you need me for things, I'm here, and I'll talk to you, between sets. It was get to know you. But I try to be as real as possible, as honest as possible, and then having the baseball specific background obviously is going to carry some weight with these guys.
So you work with obviously pros and college. So let's back up. We'll come back to your first day at LSU when you got the call. Let's back up to the Astros. So talk a little bit about the Dominican Republic Academy and what your role was, and also how you got that position, that internship with the Astros.
Yeah, so my first internship was with our rookie level team in Florida. So not quite the Dominican Academy, but at that level, it's mostly Dominican guys. That being said, that internship actually came about because of my Cressy internship. And so the way that kind of unfolded was December, before my fifth season had actually started, I get a random LinkedIn message from Bill Furcus, who was a guy, sports med and performance, or director of sports med and performance for the Astros at the time. Said, hey, saw your profile. We're looking to fill an intern's spot this upcoming season, this upcoming summer. And I saw your internship at Cressy. Would you like to talk? And as luck had it, or I say it's luck, I think I put myself in a good position too. But two days after that message, I was scheduled to go down to a conference, a baseball specific conference in Nashville. And the Astros farm director at the time, Pete Patilla, was also going down. So I sent Bill a message back, said, hey, would love to talk sometime early next week. I'm going down to this conference this weekend, and I'll be free next week when I get back. And he goes, oh, well, Pete's going to be down there. I'll link you two up. So 2 days after that LinkedIn message, I'm having lunch with the farm director at Chipotle. Get back, we go through a series of phone interviews with some different people. They offer me the position. And I say it was kind of lucky because it was just the timing of it was impeccable.
Right.
But if I didn't go out to Cressy for that internship, I don't get that opportunity. If I'm not going to Nashville for that conference, and that I decided, hey, I'm just going to give up my weekend, pay a few $100, go down. I think this is going to be valuable for me because I know I want to go into coaching now. I'm not saying I don't get that position if I don't go to Nashville, but then to be able to have lunch with one of the more senior people in the organization 2 days after the initial contact was super valuable. So they offered me that. Went and played my fifth year, we finished up losing the conference tournament, weren't going to make the NCAA tournament. So 3 days later, I'm driving down to the complex in Florida, was there for the 2019 season. And then they brought me on full time at the end of that season. So they usually do those contracts in October. And when I signed on full time for 2020, I was actually supposed to go and be one of the coaches at our DR Academy. Mm-hmm. And then obviously 2020, COVID hits, chaos. It was actually 12 hours before our flight. So we went down to spring training. We were there for a couple weeks helping out, and then we were supposed to go to the DR. It was 12 hours before our flight was supposed to leave when everything kind of shut down. So we got held up. Glad we never got on that plane. We ended up going back home, and everybody just kind of had a remote coaching job for that summer outside of the big leagues and the taxi squads that were around to keep some players healthy or training and healthy. So I didn't go to the DR that year. Obviously couldn't. But flash forward to the spring of 2021, I ended up going down for 5 weeks. They had some COVID staffing issues that were happening down there. And so on a 48-hour whim, they said, hey, how quick can you get down there? So they gave me 2 days. 2 days later, I was flying to Santo Domingo for what was at the time an undefined amount of time. We weren't sure how long it was going to be. It ended up being 5 weeks. It was interesting being kind of locked in quarantine at the complex there, but it was a lot of fun. And again, this jumps ahead again, but going into the next role that I was promoted into, again, having the ability just to say, yeah, I'm there where you need me, provided the organization with some value that helped me get to my next role. And this is just, again, for young people who want to get into the coaching sphere, you've got to be willing to take that jump, or just to provide value at any moment in time, however you can, especially early in your career.
So during the Dominican Republic Academy times, you were in your 20s still, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was 20, 24, 25.
Yeah, so I think that's a great lesson, because you said something earlier about just being ready for the opportunity. And how important that is, being prepared and being ready for that opportunity strikes. And again, you're mid-20s and you're already working for, a major league organization. And, and I mean, the Dominican Republic Academy, that's got to be a huge role, with all the influx of the Dominican players coming through.
Yeah, it was. At any given time, we've got 70 players down there, 75 players. So, and again, if you look at the Astros major league roster, a lot of those players came through that Dominican Academy. Framber, Luis Garcia, Christian Javier, Brian Abreu, Jordan. Like, a lot of players started their career there and blossomed from there. So it was imperative that we did a really good job at what's perceived as the lowest level, because we didn't operate like some big market teams do. Dodgers, Yankees, Cubs, exactly. Didn't spend the money like they did. Not like we were operating like a small market team, but if we could extract more value than we got, so if we signed a guy for $10,000 and becomes a contributing major leaguer, that's hugely valuable to the organization. And so the work that we did there was very important.
Trying to get into, say, an elite college program in your role, or even a major league team, how do you go about making yourself marketable? When you want to approach a team for an opportunity, how does the self-marketing part work?
I think building a good resume is huge. You've got to be able to show, if we're talking baseball specific, you do want baseball experience. It's not that if you don't have it, you have no chance. But again, if you're talking about what's more marketable, the guy who's coached or played or understands the game of baseball is going to have a little bit of a leg up against the competition. So the experience in the resume building, but the networking is also huge, and who so we're at the time of year right now where professional baseball jobs are starting to open up. It's kind of that October through December window. There's some turnover in staff. Contracts are expiring. Some are renewed, some aren't. And so the more you network, whether that's going to events, reaching out to people through social media, when those positions become open, even when I got here to LSU, it was through a connection from somebody that I had formerly worked with, and he knew this position was about to open and kind of slid my resume in to them. That was my introduction to LSU, was through a former coworker of mine. So your network is massively valuable to you. And so creating real, authentic relationships with the people that you work with or the people that you meet, again, provide them value too. If you're at a conference and try to help people in any way you can, with sharing information, offering up your time, your services, all things like that. Because when it comes time to find that position, the people that you've provided value to are more likely to help you in that search. And the people that, and you just might be at top of mind if they know of a position that opens. Or there's always talk in the industry of, I might get somebody in the pro ball ranks right now, a director who will text me and say, hey, our low A position is going to be open. Do you have anybody who's a great fit for it? And if you're at the top of my mind, your name is going to be sent to them, and that's going to get you a leg up.
So on July 4th, 2024, you had quite the Independence Day. That's when you got the call from Coach Jay Johnson about the job at LSU. Was that anything to think about, or was that just, gosh, absolutely, this is a no-brainer to come to LSU?
So that first phone call was very introductory. It wasn't like he called and said, hey, you want to come? It was 10, 15 minutes, got to know each other. He kind of laid out two very simple goals for the program, which was A, win championships, B, develop major league players. Those both resonate with me. That's why I do this. I like to compete. I like to win championships, and helping players reach their ultimate dream of fulfilling out the dream of a little boy playing in the major leagues it's one, like, anytime I see a former player get called up, it's like one of the best days ever. And so there was interest right away. It's obviously, and it's LSU. I've said this to people before. It's the most storied program in college baseball history. If you don't agree with that, you can't argue that it's on the Mount Rushmore.
Oh, 100%.
At the very least, you can't argue it. And so when I left the Astros, I told my boss at the time, I was not looking actively to leave, but this opportunity presented itself, and I could not say no. Just the gravity of what this program means and what it stands for, and the opportunity to come in with a really good roster, an unbelievable coaching staff. These guys work harder than any group of people I've ever been around. And so the opportunity to be a part of that was something I couldn't say no to.
So they had just won the championship in 2023. Coming into that program, just because of the winning pedigree, did you feel any pressure at all when you came in? Just kind of knowing your history.
I got here after the 24 season. So they went champion. They went championship in 23. 24, they were pretty close to getting back to Omaha. If you look at the body of work of that whole season, it wasn't very good. I think they started 3-12 in SEC play. And so when I came in, there were a few returners who had been on both sides of it. They had seen championship level baseball, and then a team that largely underperformed and then started playing good baseball at the end of the season, which is important. But the message was like, you can't let 2024 happen again. This is on you guys and it's on us as a staff, but it's just as much on you guys as players of how bad do you want to be great? Because those of you who are here in 23, you know what it looks like, you know what it takes. And those who came back in 24, you know that that's not acceptable. That's just not the expectation. And that was, led largely by Coach Johnson. And we don't spend a whole lot of time talking about the past. But that was, even in here, it was like, hey, on the strength and conditioning side, things aren't always easy. It's not always fun to be working out early in the morning. But last year, you guys also, lost a lot of baseball games that you shouldn't have lost. And we could pick out some specific examples, and some are going to happen. But it was largely, that's not the, you guys know that's not the expectation. The newcomers last year obviously didn't have any, sense of what was good, what was bad, how it had been. So it was just, this is the expectation. We're going to work harder than anybody. We've got talent. So that part is good. Now we need you guys to go out and execute, and it's our job to put you in the best position possible. I always tell guys, I'll do the thinking. I just need you to do the work. I can't do the work for you, and I can't care more than you.
So what about the new players when they come in and they work with you first time? Is there any kind of a shock at how much work there is on the college level, or a lot of them, kind of used to that kind of work? Your top tier players coming out of high school.
I think over the past 5-10 years, it's gotten a lot better, especially for these top tier guys. I think they're exposed to better resources, better coaches. Not everybody, but the large majority come in pretty prepared, and we can, it's not full throttle day one, but we can hit the ground running and lay a good foundation over that summer for the new guys or transfer portal guys, whether it's in the summer or it's, a couple weeks before school when they get there and get to start knowing them. But guys come in a pretty good position, and if not, then it's sometimes we got to slow things down and start from square one, and that's okay. Like, you're here because you're a great baseball player. It's much harder to be a great baseball player than it is just to build the physical tool, the physical hardware or the engine.
Right.
So I think developing skill is way harder than developing physicality if you have any sort of work ethic, and so that's okay if you come in and you're not ready, but most guys are by now. And again, getting to know them through the recruiting process, once they're signed, we can start to provide them some information and resources and things like that. And so even before they get here in the summer, for a lot of them, we've had good phone calls and conversations about what they should be doing in their training so that when they get here in the beginning of July, we're ready to rock and roll.
So what's your first order of business? Your first day on campus, meeting with the team. What's your approach as soon as you get on campus? Your very first season. Are you? So I know you said you want to meet with the guys. Are you meeting with everybody individually, one-on-one, finding out their goals? What's kind of your first order of business coming into LSU?
Yeah, it's a sit-down meeting with each. Well, first it's a sit-down meeting with the coaching staff and the medical staff. When I first got here, it's like, hey, I got to learn our roster. And so we went through all the guys on the roster. I went with the head coach, with the pitching coach, with our athletic trainer, with some of the other coaches, and got an outline of their ideas on A, where they're at as a player, B, what they need to work on, C, kind of their mental makeup, you could call it, and really like where they fit into the team and the roster, and then knowing that, then I'll sit down with the player as an individual. And last year, I was still very much in a get to know you phase. So it was, hey, let's go over your goals as a baseball player. Let's go over where you identify that you need to get better. Is it a strength and conditioning specific thing? Is it a skill thing? Is it a little bit of both? Do you think you're Mike Trout already? Like, these are important things to know. And then from there, we would have a couple more, touch points throughout the semester on making sure we're on track. This year was actually much nicer because I already knew all the returners. So I already know what they're working on, what they're good at, what they're not good at, what their biggest needs and goals are for this upcoming year. So that was good because I already had half of our team figured out. The freshmen, again, kind of knew some of them already. And so had an idea of where they were at. And then the transfer guys are always going to be, that's one where you got to sit down and kind of dissect it, get through their history a little bit more and start to learn them a little bit more. But you're always going to have those, few new guys through the door each year.
So how do you keep the returning players hungry after winning the championship? Because I don't know. I mean, do you think there was a complacency in 2024 with some of the returning players? Like, hey, we just won. I mean, how do you keep the returning players motivated?
Yeah, I don't know about 2024. I mean, sometimes this league is really tough, and so you get out to a tough start in the league, and it's a league that if you don't do everything right, you're going to get beat up. It's really competitive. The margin between the best and the 10th best team in the conference is not as big as people perceive it to be. This year, that there will be no complacency. Those guys who are here, that is the expectation. Now we have a few guys who are on the 23 team, the 24 team, and the 25 team. And so they've kind of taken it upon themselves to 2024 can't happen again.
Right.
We've seen the high, and then we've seen the low after it, and then we've seen the high again. Now we need to make that the standard. And so that's, and I've told the guys, hey, look, winning a championship is great. It's very, very hard to do. We don't take it for granted, but winning back-to-back is tougher. We're doing something that's harder now because you have a bigger target on your back, bigger than it already is just being LSU. So the work on our end, I've taken things up a notch. There's things that we needed to get better at from last year. We're going to address those. And so we're just moving forward, keep the work going, and we'll see kind of where that lands us here once the season gets going.
So how do you integrate the incoming freshmen or even transfers who are coming into a championship or into a championship season working with the returning players? Is it easy to integrate them, or is there a buy-in that has to take place with them right from the start into the system?
So we were fortunate this summer that we had a handful of returners who, since we played so deep into the year, ended up not going and playing summer ball or anything. So they stayed on campus and trained with me in the summer, which is very, very valuable. When the new guys show up, you already see guys around who have had success at this level, who know what it takes to win, who know what it takes to prepare. And so they see that from day one. But what I think made our team so special last year was I've never been around a closer knit group of players in my life at any level, player, coach. It was truly like real team chemistry, not the rah-rah fake stuff, not the fake preach brotherhood, none of that. It was like they genuinely liked each other. They liked being around each other. They rooted for each other. I've never been around a group of guys who the backups or reserves at certain positions. I've never seen them root harder for the starters. That's special, and that's not common, right? Because it's very easy to be angry or be upset or wonder why you're not playing. But and maybe it's even to the point where you want that guy to fail so that you get the opportunity. It was not that. There was none of that. And so our guys who have returned took a lot of those new guys in early on and say, hey, come over to our house for dinner. We're going to have, we're going to grill out. It was not, hey, you're a freshman, so you have to, you have to clean up the weight room after lift, and you have to do this and that, and you don't have the respect of us. It's very much like, hey, you're here, you're part of our team. There's not this hierarchy that the older guys feel entitled or anything, and we didn't have that really last year, and we don't have that this year. And I think that's special, and it's not common.
It kind of makes me think about, we're living in the age of NIL now. And, how do you, keep the players motivated or their minds on winning, right, over the brand? But it doesn't seem like you guys have that problem, as you just mentioned, because it seems like it is business. It's very business-like, and everybody knows what the mission is with LSU.
Yeah, we're here first and foremost to compete and win championships and play great baseball. The NIL stuff is great, and if that's why, if that's the biggest driving factor for you, I don't want to say this isn't the program for you, because that's not my place to say it, but like we're here to compete and get better and grind and enjoy the process and then reap the fruits of our labor. And I think the NIL stuff, again, it's not as blown up as it is in football or basketball. And, you don't have guys making $3 million a year playing college baseball. But I don't know. I don't like to use the word culture loosely, but like that's the culture of this program. And so while, yes, obviously you have to adapt to the new age of sports as it is, the culture here and the standard here is excellence. And that's the draw. Got
it. So Tim Grover, who Tim Grover is, those who don't know, he trained Michael Jordan, Kobe, Dwayne Wade, and he said that he studies tape after a game and, makes whatever adjustments he needs to and takes total accountability. If a player is not performing up to their standards, he puts it all on him. So kind of take us through your eyes when you're watching a game. What are the details that you're paying attention to throughout the game? What is it that you're looking for?
It really just depends. I might be watching certain guys more on one day versus another if we were working on something very specific, whether it was movement wise, whether it's if a guy's dealing with a little injury or playing through, some soreness, like I'm going to have some heightened focus just on what's going on with him in general. Sometimes I just like to be a baseball nerd and look out, see where the outfielders are positioned, and where are our runners taking good leadoffs? Are they taking the appropriate depth leadoff at second base, depending on how many outs there are in the situation? So it really just depends. I'm watching all sorts of things during the game, and then I'll go down to the bullpen with the first wave of relievers, and then the rest of the game I'm kind of spent down there helping those guys get prepped mentally and physically to get ready to go in that game.
So talk about that mental prep. How are you prepping the pitchers? How are you prepping the players, before a game or during workouts?
So, again, I don't know. I wouldn't say I am a mental coach or anything, but Coach Johnson, our head coach, does a ton of visualization with guys. So before every single game week, if we're at home, we'll come into the batting cages, lay down. Everyone's closing their eyes, and Coach Johnson walks them through a visualization exercise. If we're on the road, we'll do it in our conference room at the hotel before we leave for the field. That's very regular. Coach Yeski, our pitching coach, does a ton of mental strength or mental skills development with our players. We even have some consultants that work with the team and come in through different times throughout the year and meet with guys in groups and individually. But when I'm there in game per se, it's more so me trying to read the situation and understand, who are we most likely to hear called on the walkie-talkie, but also to make sure the guys stay engaged, because sometimes down in the bullpen it can be easy to let yourself wander a little bit mentally, and so it's reminding them, hey, anything can happen in this game. I don't care if it's 8-1 and you're our high leverage guy and you think you're not going to throw today. All of a sudden, if it's 8-2 and bases are loaded, you're going in the ball game. So you better stay here mentally with us until the all 9 innings are over. And so it's things like that I'm constantly in their ears, making sure that they are moving around regularly, staying loose. If some of them have a specific routine, I'll help them out with that. But it's just really like making sure we're still engaged. And then when we go out, we're in kill mode. We're ready just to go dominate that first hitter we face out of the bullpen.
So for those who are listening, who want to get into your field, strength and conditioning, I'm sure there's continuing education, ongoing education for yourself, right? So kind of talk about how the strength and conditioning field has evolved, say, over the last maybe 10, 15 years since you first got in, and what do you do to kind of stay on top of all the latest trends, and how do you apply, those trends? Or I guess, when do you know when the appropriate time is to apply a lot of these new trends that you're learning about?
Yeah, so there's all sorts of continuing ed, and you can get yourself lost in it. So I think the first thing to understand is, like, once you identify a topic or a trend or something that you're interested in, like, actually give it the time of day to learn it, understand it, and begin to apply it before you either decide, hey, I like this, I want to stick with it, or I want to scrap it. But you can't just see something and go, oh, I'm going to let that rip and see what happens. So identify those things. Some people try and do 9 different continuing ed courses at once, and then you see none of them applied in their work. And it's like, okay, well, now we're just adding certifications or this or that. So find things you're interested in the field that you think will help move the needle forward in terms of your program or the design of everything you're doing. Get invested in it, learn about it, understand it, and then apply it and understand how it fits in. Because most things you can fit into your model, you just got to kind of figure out where. So that's the first thing. I think, again, staying in regular contact with people in your network. I bounce ideas off of some of my close friends in the field all the time. They do the same with me. We kind of continue to learn and grow from each other. And then when it comes to actually going to apply things, I think you always have your foundational meat and potatoes, things that are going to be staples in your program no matter what. And that's kind of your identity as a coach. That's great. And then you get to be, you can try things where it's, hey, I think this is going to work because of X, Y, and Z. I've seen it successful in other programs implemented like this. And this is where I think it's going to fit well into ours. I think we're going to have some pretty good success here. So let's try it out. And maybe I try it out on myself first in my own training, or I give it to a specific number of guys, whether it's something that I think they need, or if it's something advanced, something that they can handle mentally or physically, and make sure, okay, this checks out. And then there's like a very slim part where things can be somewhat experimental, which is fun, but you have to be, cognizant of what you're doing. And anytime I do something that's new that I haven't necessarily rolled out with a large group of people, I'm very upfront with the athletes. Like, hey, this is something I've seen. I think it'll have success. I don't see any real drawbacks with it. Maybe the biggest drawback is you're going to look really goofy doing this exercise, but I need you to stay with me, try it, give it your full effort, because I think it can benefit you. And then you kind of learn, and your program just grows and adapts over time.
Has there been any pushback from the players?
When it
comes to doing so, how do you handle that?
I asked them if they want to take my job. It depends. Pushback comes
perfect
in
response.
I asked them if they want to write the program, but no, it just depends on what the pushback looks like and what the real source of the pushback is. For example, during our warm-ups, I sometimes I'll have them do somersaults or cartwheels or like little, these are movements that they think look stupid or goofy, or they're worried about what people will say. And when in reality, they were probably doing them at a decent level at 3 or 4 years old, just messing around as a child. And so these are kind of some just innate human movement patterns or crawling or things like that, where they've grown out of it and it's not cool. But like when you think about doing a cartwheel, it's a great exercise to warm up for something that's good, like for training. It's going to put your shoulders into positions where they need to stabilize overhead, and it's going to move your body through space in a way that's going to promote some proprioception and some awareness of your limbs. And so it's like, this is actually a great tool to use as a warm-up to get ready to train if you get the buy-in. And so sometimes it's, I'm not going to do that. I don't like that. Or sometimes it's, that looks stupid. Or sometimes like I whatever it is, it just depends on how we deal with it. But I get blowback from time to time. But I think I have a good enough relationship where then knowing the guy, it's, some of them just need an explanation.
Right.
Some of them need some tough love, and they're just kind of like, they're always going to give you a little bit of pushback. It depends. Each situation is a little bit different. But I don't mind it as long as it's not excessive and it's not disrespectful. I enjoy the discourse and educating guys on why I'm thinking a certain way or why I'm asking them to do a certain thing, because then they start to understand it too.
That's kind of a good segue. I want to talk about your Instagram. That's really where I really kind of learned a lot about, kind of how you work and a lot of your exercise and movements. What I really like is not only do you show what the exercise is, but you have a very detailed explanation of not only how to do the exercise, but the purpose behind it. And that's what I want to talk about is purpose. Because, a lot of baseball players, and, I'm guilty of it when I was younger, we just lifted weights. No real purpose. It was just to get stronger, just to kind of look good. But everything that you do is with purpose. So let's stay on that topic for a second. So baseball-specific workouts, talk about why purpose is so important rather than just throwing weights up.
So I tell people that while I'm a strength and conditioning coach by title or by trade, I'm in the business of making better baseball players. I'm not in the business of making better weightlifters. That being said, by getting better at lifting weights, you're usually going to become a better baseball player through better physicality, but not always. And there's so much nuance and so much, that differs individual to individual. And that's where these things kind of diverge. Is the weight room is a great vehicle to make you a better baseball player. But at the end of the day, I myself and our entire staff are responsible for what happens on the field. So if you are squatting 300 pounds and now you're squatting 400 pounds, but nothing has changed out there, I don't call that a success.
Right. Exactly right.
And so that being said, now I think what happens in the weight room is actually far more general than specific to any one sport. There are always going to be considerations, especially for a throwing population or an overhead athlete. But that being said, like what happens in the weight room, too many people try to make it look like the sport, and that's just not what we need to be doing. We need to be building the body to be as resilient and have as much capacity to handle the movements and the forces and the requirements of the tasks on the field, which again comes back to you can build all that through the weight room. But just because you take a baseball bat and drill a hook into it and attach it to a cable machine, and that doesn't make sport specific. And I don't think that's what you were getting at. But I just want people to understand, like, just because if it looks gimmicky, it's probably gimmicky.
Right. Gotcha. So staying on that on purpose. So I just saw a post about sprinting, and I love to sprint, but there's also baseball specific sprinting. And one of the posts you talked about was base running, right? And making sure that you are sprinting at the correct curve around the bases, approaching first, rounding third, going to home. So I know a lot of people, it's just a straight sprint that they work on. They call that their sprint workout. But in baseball, sprinting takes on a whole other purpose, right? So kind of talk about that.
Yeah, the whole topic of sprinting could be a whole podcast on its own.
I know.
But yeah, I think in sprint work, we think about, let's set up cones and run a 40-yard dash or whatever your conception your conception is of sprinting. But what happens in baseball is a lot of curved and multi-directional sprints. A lot of varying starting positions. So you might be finishing a swing. It's going to put you in a much different starting position than if you're playing center field, chasing a ball that could go in any direction, which is a much different starting position than if you're on first base, taking a lead off and you're sprint stealing second base. So a lot of different starting positions. And it's heavily acceleration based. So rarely on a baseball field are you going to see somebody probably if ever run 23, 24, 25 miles an hour, like you may on a football field for some of those top end guys. Well, you just don't have enough room. You're never running that far in a straight line. It's probably in a straight line. You're looking at home to first is a 30-yard sprint. And that's going to be unless you're an outfielder making an extremely long straight play on a ball, which doesn't happen often. So it's super acceleration based. Whoever can have the most success in the first 2 to 5 steps of any sprint or run is going to have a lot of success in terms of some of those sprint based or movement based outcomes.
What about, I know you also talked about, this was an interesting post that I saw. You talked about, we've all been guilty of it, but during batting practice, we're shagging balls. And, we're having, the good conversations out there and just watching balls or going down chasing balls. But you're totally against just standing around and just catching balls during BP. So you have a whole philosophy about what you should be doing instead of just shagging balls during BP.
Yeah, I'm not against shagging balls, but at the same time, it's 45 minutes to an hour of time that could be spent doing something to propel you forward in your career. And so there is a time and place to go hang out and just stand around and chat with the guy next to you. Like I'm not against that, but what I am against is then a sport coach taking that time and then telling a strength and conditioning coach that player doesn't have time for this conditioning or whatever it is. And that's the specific example I used with pitchers is our guys do some low level, steady state zone 2 conditioning pretty regularly. And sometimes a good opportunity for that is during BP because they don't serve value picking up the baseballs. They just don't. We have student managers that can handle that. And we have our hitters are out there shagging, like the outfielders are out there trying to get reads anyways. So the pitchers largely would just be getting in the way or standing on the warning track. Like come in and let's do 45 minutes of conditioning, especially if you're not going to pitch that day, right? If you're a reliever and you're probably going in the game or you think you might go in the game and you've done your conditioning for the week and you're out for BP and shagging, that's different. But I think it's just like, how do we optimize our time? And that's an easy place to find some time to work that you're not interrupting anything else.
So just make it more productive instead of standing around.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense.
I hate being wasteful and inefficient, and I think that's pretty inefficient.
What about for the youngsters, say high school, even junior high, what's your advice for off-season training in between seasons for the young?
It depends. Well, first I would say if you're in junior high or younger, the more sports you can play, the better. I think it just develops a more robust, well-rounded athlete, and so I promote as much of that as you want it, as much as you're interested in. If baseball is it, then I would say don't play competitively year round. There's no value in that. I was on a podcast recently, and they posted the clip where I basically said, if you show up to showcases and you have nothing to showcase, what are you doing there? Like you shouldn't be there. And so that's kind of the same concept of you don't need to compete year round, even if you're in high school or junior high. Like allocate part of your year to getting better physically, to practicing some of the skills, but not in a competitive environment, in a place where you can actually get better at them and not have the weight of failure or success hanging over your head. So you've got to allocate different times of the year to competing, some to physical development, some to skill development. But the younger you are, do as much as you can, enjoy it, be a kid, and have fun.
That's a perfect segue to my next point, talking about showcases. Pretty present at these showcases, we know, are the baseball parents. And, we know who the baseball parents are. What are the biggest mistakes, Chris, that parents make with the young ball players that just drive you crazy, that you see?
Well, we just touched on one, and it's trying to get them in front of as many eyes as possible, whether that event you're going to is even going to put you in front of the right crowd, or whether you actually have something worth showcasing. I think a lot of money gets wasted, and the reason that showcases and travel ball and all of these things have grown to what they've become over the years is because they generate revenue. And your money as a parent, if you're going to allocate it towards something, again, I'm not saying don't play travel ball or don't go to showcases, but understand what your priorities are. Are you a really good player who, if you're that good, you're going to get exposed anyway. You're going to get invited to play for teams. You're going to have people showing up to your high school games. And if you're not that guy, that's okay. You need to get better, and you need to allocate your time, money, resources to getting better. And that's just, you have to be very brutally honest with yourself. And a lot of parents aren't. And a lot of parents, unfortunately, think their kid is the next Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout, when statistically it's just, you're probably not. And that's okay. But whether your ceiling is a Division I player, an NAIA player, a AA player, doesn't matter. Try to allocate your resources the best you can to reaching that ceiling. That's really what the take-home message should be. And you got to identify it correctly. You have to understand what your limiting factors are, and how do I improve those or get better at my strengths or whatever.
Okay. So now going to my next point now, this is another good segue. Those who are not heavily recruited, we talk about walk-ons. In your experience, so I'll talk about my experience. So I went to University of Houston, and I played high school ball, but I tried to walk on 2 years in a row. Obviously didn't work, but the second year that I tried out, that's when they built the new stadium, and during batting practice, I was the only one to hit one out. So my ego's like, oh, maybe I could be a bat or something off the bench, maybe, something like that. But the coaches told us, they said, look, if you guys are not as good or better than what we have, just pretty much forget it, right? Forget it. What's your advice for walk-ons, people who want to walk on? What do you look for, or what do the coaches look for in walk-ons? I mean, specifically in these tryouts.
So we don't, at LSU, we don't have any walk-ons. Or any guys who have come to tryouts. We don't hold that I'm aware of open tryouts or anything. It's all filled through recruiting of the portal. However, when I was in college and at Kent State, we did have a couple guys and they, one or two who made it onto the team or onto the roster of some sort. It's tough. You're in a position where the cards are stacked against you, honestly. you just have to go out and present the best version of yourself. I think the best way to do that is not put so much pressure on yourself. Like, understand as a walk-on, you're fighting an uphill battle. So a lot of guys put pressure on themselves to go and deliver, but that should honestly, if you flip your perspective, it should offer you some freedom.
See, because that's what happened to me. Not to cut you off, that's what happened to me. The first time I tried out during batting practice, I was out in front of everything. I was hitting hard ground balls foul because I think I was just over anxious. Right?
You're trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark and trying to
hit it out of the ballpark. Yeah, exactly. So I just kept hitting everything out in front. But yeah, that's you made a good point. About putting too much pressure on yourself. During
I would
tryouts.
say just be yourself. Like, go showcase what you got, and if it's good enough, it's good enough. If not, then it's okay. And whether that means you go to a different school and try, or you decide to hang it up and maybe you can be involved in another capacity with the team. Like, there's nothing wrong with trying to walk onto a team and it failing. That's what I think my biggest thought would be, or biggest piece of advice. Like, it's okay. Just go out and enjoy it. Have fun.
Right.
Showcase yourself. And if it works, it works. If not, either back to the drawing board and how do I get better, or on to the next thing. And that's not for me to decide. That's for you to decide as an individual. But either way, it's going to be okay, and the sun's going to come up tomorrow.
It's a learning experience, basically.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, just a couple of quick topics I want to touch on before I let you go. LSU's had some freshman phenoms come through. I started really following the team during the Todd Walker days, his freshman year. Then you had Brett Laxton come in, 93, and they won. Y'all had quite the freshman last year, Derek Curriell, right? So talk about what makes him so special. If you can kind of give us an insight into his mental makeup. And, how is he able to come in as a freshman and play, first of all, for a program like LSU and deliver the way he did in Omaha? Well, what can you tell us about his mental approach? That young.
Well, he's a special kid. He's one of one. You kind of got to get to know him just to understand it. He's quirky. He's funny. He tries to just be present, live in the moment. I don't think I've ever really seen him get rattled. Like, no joke, this is not coach speak. I don't know that a whole lot bothers him, and that enables him to have success, because this is a game designed for you as a hitter to experience a lot of failure, and he doesn't get rattled by it. At some points, you almost think he's off in La La Land, and I think that's like his flow state, where he is just not paying attention to anything, but he's just kind of out, like he's playing the game. He's totally locked in and invested to what he's doing on the field, and nothing else is really registering to him. The success, like even like the result, just doesn't really register. Outside of a few big hits, big clutch moments, you'll see him. That's when his excitement truly comes out, and he just lets it rip, and that's fun to see. But he does not get bothered by things, and that's that's a skill I think you can practice. I think he's got it naturally. If you don't have that, it's something that you can work on. But it's part of what makes him a special player. Is like when he steps in the box, it's just complete and utter focus on the task at hand.
So, how do you work on that approach if you don't have it? Is it just through experience? Is it through exercises? How do you get that mindset?
I'm not a mental game expert, but I would say starting to read books on sports psychology may help. Working with either a sports psychologist, or if you want kind of a less formal, aggressive title, like a mental skills coach, and somebody that can help provide you with either exercises mentally that you can do, or strategies in game. As you start to work with them, they understand what makes you tick, what gets you in that flow state, what gets you out of it, and if you get out of it, how do you get back in it? So I think finding a coach like that, a mental skills coach, who you click with and resonate with, can be immensely valuable.
So can people do private sessions with you? So even if you're not, playing for LSU, can people register or get in contact with you for private training sessions?
Currently, I don't offer any private training sessions.
Okay.
Now
Okay.
I do have a link on Calendly, which you can find through my social media, where I will do one-on-one consultations, and that can be with coaches looking for career advice. It could be parents looking for advice for their kids, or a kid, ask. I don't currently write specific training programs. That is something that may come down the pipeline at some point in the future, but not right now.
Okay. And so tell people where they can connect with you and where they can find you.
Yeah, either on Instagram, my handle is at ChrisMartin32, pretty active on there, or on X or Twitter, it's at ChrisMartin LSU. So pretty active on both of those. I like to interact and engage with people. And again, if you have a quick question, or want my thought on something that's going to take me, a brief reply, like I do that all the time. Now, if it's something in depth or broad where, hey, we're going to have to sit down and talk for 30 minutes, like that's something where we can hop on a call. But yeah, I like to engage. I like comments, whether they're positive, negative, funny. I think it's all fun.
Perfect. All right. My final question. And there's a question that on all my podcasts, I've had actors on, I've asked them this question, the same question, so it can apply to you as well. It's called Brutal Truth. So this is kind of your opportunity to not hold back and tell people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. So, Chris, what is your brutal truth to players who desire to play for one of the greatest college baseball programs in history, like LSU? And don't hold back. What's your brutal
truth? You'd be probably not good enough. Like, if we're statistically speaking, there are hundreds of thousands of high school baseball players. There are 39 guys on our roster, 16 teams in the SEC. If you view that as kind of the upper echelon of college baseball, like, do the math. It just doesn't work out in your favor. And so this is on the flip side of that is, and I had this conversation with guys in professional baseball all the time, is, hey, there's 7,500 minor league players. There's 750-ish major league jobs, and those don't open up year after year. So your odds are bad. You're playing a game with a deck stacked against you. If you want to end up at a school like LSU or something comparable, or whatever your dream is, there are a lot of players with just as much ability as you. So what kind of work are you willing to put in? And everybody likes to say that they work hard or act like they work hard. And the physical act of getting into the gym and actually doing it is one piece. Great. Yeah. But again, a lot of people check that box. What are you going to do to differentiate yourself is my question. Are you going to sleep better? Are you going to give up some extracurriculars on the weekends? Are you going to give up video games and say, hey, instead of playing Call of Duty from 9 o'clock till 11 o'clock and then going to bed and getting up at 6 a.m. for school, are you just going to go to bed at 9 and get 2 more hours of sleep? Because when you compound that over a long period of time, you'll create advantage over those who are of equal skill level as you. That's how you put yourself into that conversation if you're not one who's just naturally good. The conversation was the same at the pro level. Hey, you're 21 years old and you're in low A. There are guys who are 21 years old in the big leagues. You are 4 levels away from that. If you're in the big leagues at 19, 20, you were probably going to be there. Like, you were that good. You were that guy. You're the Bryce Harpers, the Juan Sotos.
Right.
Those are the guys you're competing against. How do you get yourself to have the ability to compete with them if getting to that level is truly what you desire? And so the last piece on this, on the brutal truth side, is be brutally honest with yourself, because a lot of people say they want to be. If I ask a handful of high school players, hey, do you want to be a big leaguer? Yeah, everyone's hand's going to go up. Okay. I could tell you within a couple of days of knowing you if you actually want to be a big leaguer, or if it would just be a convenient happiness for you. Two very different worlds. So
how do you tell that? I mean, how do you weed that out? Let's make that the last question. How do you weed those people out?
Oh, they weed themselves out. How do you identify it? It's just kind of identify their habits. Mm-hmm. Again, if they want to treat it like it is everything to them, or like it is their livelihood. Lost a leg here. If they want to treat it like that, they're going to. And not every 16-year-old is going to act like a 10-year major league veteran. I understand that. But there are habits and consistencies and discipline that you have to have. And that's our job as coaches across the field, high school, college, professional, to help guys learn that and form that and get there quicker. That's one of the things I try to reiterate with our guys is like, hey guys, the advice I'm giving you is not because I think it sounds good. It's because it's advice that I wish I would have picked up on sooner, because maybe I could have done more with my career. And you guys are a whole heck of a lot more talented than I am. So if it can click with a few of you, then I've made a positive impact here.
I tell you, that's about as brutal as it gets right there. if you want to know, there it is. That was not sugar-coated. That was exactly what I was hoping for. Chris, my friend, thank you so much. I'm absolutely grateful for this time. Ever since I started following you, I said, I got to get this guy on, and I know you've done a lot of interviews, really focusing on strength and conditioning, but I really wanted to get into the mindset and the process for those who want to get into your field, for those who want to play ball, really, what the mental makeup is that they need to have to be successful and be the best they can be. Really looking forward to the season coming up, and I'm going to stay in touch with you. Again, this was incredibly insightful. It hit every objective that I set out for today, and really, really appreciate your time.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, Tommy. Enjoyed it a ton. And I apologize for the kid you saw in the background jumping back through the window back there. That was one of our administrators. His son's 13, and he's an unbelievable baseball player. And he comes in here after school in the evenings and trains, and he gets after it. And one of the more talented kids I've seen at 13. So that was who you saw there hopping up over my shoulder.
Awesome. Hey, he's excited about being a baseball player. I love it. Being a kid.
Yeah, he's awesome.
All right, my friend, thank you so much, and we'll talk again soon. I'm going to stay in touch, all right?
All right, thank you, Tommy.
Everybody, take care, Chris. Bye-bye. So that'll do it for this episode that defied expectations, and this is one that I'm asking you to please share with anyone you think might find it of value. I know many will, and especially youngsters who have dreams of playing college ball and beyond, to understand the mental work that it takes, along with physical preparation. And this was such a conversation filled with lessons that I feel could be applied to everyday life. So please share it with as many people as possible. As always, thank you to my guy Quincy Whetstone, my guy Q Stone here at Sacred Stone Studios in my hometown of Houston, Texas. You can hook up with them at sacredstonemedia.com. They always do a first-class job, and I know I can always depend on them. Please follow the Tommy Denos podcast on Apple Podcasts and YouTube. Please subscribe, share, rate, and review on both. It would be a huge help. Let's get this pod out there. We've done some wonderful episodes in the past, which I'm extremely proud of, that provide so much incredible value. So please share and get the word out. It would mean so much. Finally, another huge thank you to Chris Martin. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the Tigers do this season as they defend their championship from 2025. This was an incredible guest. You heard the brutal truth for ball players who want to play for an elite level program. Think about what he said, all right? That should motivate you to want to work every single day as hard as possible. For those of you who want to get into strength and conditioning, go back and rewatch this, because he gave you so many nuggets of information that'll help get you prepared for a career in strength and conditioning. He talked about networking. He talked about continuing education and just being ready for that opportunity, how to market yourself, all kinds of great lessons if you want to get into that field. So thank you to all of you who follow the show. And until next time, you want to make your dreams happen, go get it. God bless.
I'm pushing the limit. I'm pushing the limit. I'll take it as far as I can go. So let's go. Whoa.